like, I don't know, it's hard for me to partition, So like for me to do more than one is like really hard. What does your timeline look like? How are you able to kind of, let's say you're working on a record, like how long will it take you to actually work on a record with an album, with an artist, and how many other records are you working on simultaneously?
A lot. Yeah, I usually take a lot on at once. As far as how long it takes, it really depends on the artist. Sometimes things just come together super quick, or the song is more or less written and it's just sort of building everything around it. A lot of the times it's just very ground up. Somebody will come with a concept or a line or a little bit of an idea of what this thing's going to be about, maybe a reference, or maybe we just try a whole bunch of stuff and experiment until it's them and it works. So yeah, as far as how long things take, there's not really a set thing. But I definitely, like at the moment, I'm working on 5 sort of EP projects, and I'm about to start another couple next week. For the first time in a long time, actually, because of having the baby and having a little bit of time off, I've sort of chunked myself in like blocks. I usually have a couple days a week with certain people, or like standing sessions where we do, every Tuesday, every Friday, it's this artist, and we all just work. But for the next couple months, it's like 2-week to like 3-week blockouts of everybody. So we can just get into their album and be only in the album, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, I'd love to get an updated answer on like how that goes. Cause yeah, I've interviewed a couple of people where it's like, yeah, we book out a week or 2 weeks and we make a record and that's it. Like, and part of me is like super jealous of that, because that sounds amazing, because you just like are all in on the record. On the other hand, like for me, like economically, I just need to do a lot of things at once. Otherwise, like I don't know if I'm going to have a band booking me for 2 weeks in, I don't know. At least that's where I'm at right now with my business. But also like it's fun to do a bunch of stuff. It's fun to do a little bit of this, a little bit like a mix here, a production there. It's like nice to mix things up, and you're not like all the way in the grind. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear how what the benefits and the negatives are.
Yeah, absolutely. It just worked out that like over the last couple of weeks, people have instead of just doing a bunch of singles or grouping of singles, they're all like, "Hey, I want to do a record. I want to do a full EP." So it's like, okay, let's just go full into it. We'll dive in, and this will be like your chunk of time, and we'll just be all in on your project.
Amazing. So let's talk a little bit about how you produce. So an artist comes to you with a song. What's the first thing you do? Are you looking to hear a rough, like a demo that they made on their phone? Do you want them to come in and play it for you? And like, what are you thinking the first time you hear a song?
I usually get demos. I like to do that just so I can kind of get at least a gauge of where your voice sits. Is this the right key for you? Are we going to shift this up and down? Tempo-wise, is this kind of nice? I'd like to get a reference or two, too, just to at least kind of get what direction they want to go in. And then I can start thinking sounds up from there. But yeah, with demos, I usually, again, like the key arrangement stuff, how long does it take to get to the chorus? Is your bridge too long? Do you have a bridge? Lyrically and melodically, I'm a big melody guy. I'm not so quick with lyrics, so I've got people I like to call on for that stuff. So if it feels like it could use a little bit of touching up, maybe I give a writer friend a call. But as far as actually getting into production, I generally just start completely from scratch. I don't really have any template type stuff I use. I just open a blank Pro Tools session and it's kind of game on.
So like when the artist leaves the studio after their first session with you, what are they usually coming away with? Like after day one, like how close to the finished product do you come? Or is it just like you have like a bridge, or you just like have like the first verse down? Like how far do you go and how fast?
Lately, pretty fast. The last couple of things I've been working on have been fairly fleshed out writing wise. So I can usually get the whole thing structured out pretty much like a rough mix of things going on, at least the instrumental. Generally, if the song's feeling pretty good, or at least just to have a bass to start off, get a rough tempo going, get a guide vocal with like a single instrument, and then I can build it up from there. So generally I'll send like a fairly fleshed out instrumental in a day. And then we'll come back, because I get really finicky and picky with vocal stuff. So I don't love doing the whole thing in a day. I want to have a separate full session for, the lead and then digging right into backing vocals. Yeah, that's really where I get very obsessive.
Yeah, I totally know that. I could be a drill master with my clients for sure. Got, but I also you read the room and you know how hard you can push them.
Oh, exactly.
But yeah, totally. Yeah, and I've just noticed that you're such a collaborator. You're happy to bring in other people to help you with lyrics. You send out for mixing. How has bringing other people into your process helped you? And where do you look for help?
Yeah, I just like having ears on it. I like everything being a bit collaborative. I like having, a whole team around an artist, not necessarily around my production. I like knowing an artist well enough to know who to call and who's going to be beneficial and who's going to bring the best stuff out of them. Like I said, I know a lot of writers, but, these two writer girls might not be what's going to make you the most comfortable. Maybe you need a different sort of energy in the room. I've done a lot of writing camp stuff as well in the past, and usually the best sort of formula in a room is you have the artist, you have the producer, you have a lyric guy, you have a melody guy, and then a vibe guy. You don't want to oversaturate, but as long as somebody's there to make sure everybody's having a good time and not stressing about a line for 3 hours. Somebody who's quick with a lyric or, turning it into more of a punchline or something. And then somebody who can just riff melodies over a track. That's when it kind of really seems to come to life. And even as far as mixing, I've used Chris on a lot of stuff. Chris has been absolutely killing Cindy's mixes and this other guy, Roman, I work with. But you just did Josh Bowman interview, and he's been mixing a couple other artists that I work with. It's just trying to find who's going to work with who sonically, personality-wise. I don't know. It's fun to put that together. It's it's all psychology, which is also kind of fun.
Yeah, it's so much psychology. In the room with it, vocal sessions are I think somebody recently said on the podcast, a vocal session is a psychology is like a therapy session, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You got to get people totally relaxed and comfortable to. The episode I just released yesterday. Andy Reid, he was saying, it's people screw up in front of us. We're our job is
right.
We sit there and people mess up, and we have to make them feel good about that, and that's okay. I was damn, that's such a good point. You're
gonna hire me to tell you it's not good enough. Do it again, many times.
Yes,
yeah,
and as nicely or as aggressively
as you need,
as suits you. Yeah, exactly.
No, I can't tell you how many sessions have just turned into full therapy sessions. I've had clients in the past where they come in to do a vocal session, and it's yeah, you know what? This probably isn't going to happen today. Let's just talk about your life. You do what you need to do. We'll get back on this tomorrow. I drove somebody to a hospital from a panic attack once. That was an interesting end to a session. But yeah, just got to make them comfortable enough to, be vulnerable. It's art.
So in terms of bringing on guys like Chris and Josh, do you do any mixing yourself? Do you try to give them really solid rough mixes? What does that look like?
Yeah, I do sometimes mix. I don't really enjoy mixing. It's not what I love doing. Like I said, I'd like to build around an artist, but sometimes I mix out of, budget necessity, or if I get way too close to a project. That's happened. Or, sometimes the artist just loves the way my sort of reference type mix is sitting. So I'm okay, I'll just take it to the finish line. But yeah, I would rather send it to somebody like Chris or Josh, who is going to be much more technical about it. I feel like that's kind of why I also don't love it, is I don't get as sort of technical into the mix. I just sort of do what I think sounds great, and that's it, which I guess isn't wrong, but makes me feel weird about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I feel like when you're able to partition, you're able to do more work, if that makes sense. I feel like by sending out for mixing, you're able to kind of just move on to the next production and not have a bottleneck there. And when I'm mixing a project, it's so much easier for me to just mix a song than for when I'm producing a song and mixing it to kind of okay, is the production really done?
Yeah.
Am I now mixing it? Maybe I want to go back and change something. There are all these little bottlenecks, I feel between the stages.
And the fact that it's your own session, so you
Yeah.
can go back on anything you've done. Whereas if I send it to mixing, I'm sending all of my process stuff, so they can only go back so far.
Right.
And I do
Yeah.
try and get my mixes to where I think I've sort of maxed out how good I could get it. So,
Yeah.
you know, I generally sound what I like, but make better, make it bigger.
Yeah. That's great. I feel like people like you that are like just like creative producers, it's just, I feel like there's just like the speed of like just getting out the art and getting it all out there. And then it's like, cool, now mixer, sort this out a little bit, you know, just tidy it up. And I feel like
Exactly.
there's something great about that. Like maybe, I mean, that's probably the reason why you're able to take on like 5 EPs at once, right? It's because you're not like getting stuck, like cleaning up the, like you're making the mess. I mean, it's obviously tidy and organized, like you said, but you're not also cleaning up the mess at the same, you know, afterwards. You kind of just like, cool, this is the mess I made. You know, not that your productions are a mess, obviously, but like, here, take this now.
Yep.
You know?
Definitely.
Yeah, there's something cool about that. Yeah. And I know you work on like a ton of different genres and stuff. Like, do you like, how does your classical training kind of inform your production?
I honestly think it has a lot to do with just like a harmonic content of things, because I played in orchestras for so long, especially when it gets into stuff like backing vocal layers and, I mean, really just the backing vocal layers and like string arrangement stuff. I get so into it, and just building out big, thick, you know, vocal pads and chords and stuff that way. Like a lot of the productions that I do have a ton of harmony too. And I know a few people have mentioned that's kind of why they've hit me up in the past. And I think, playing violin for so long has really helped with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. As a classical musician, are you like looking ever at places like Splice to kind of like get samples, get inspired, or do you kind of like try to build up your own sounds? Like, you know, and like for me, like as like a, I don't know, regular musician, coming from that kind of musician background of like being a bass player, playing in bands, like I'm often just making my own sounds. I'm not really ever, I mean, I'm trying Splice, but like it's never been like a source of like inspiration so much for me. I'd rather kind of do something myself.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you?
I'm the exact same way. I have a Splice account, and the only thing I've ever used it for, and I do use it a lot, is just for like drum one shots. Otherwise, I'm making everything from scratch. I'm a big synth nerd. I love, you know, getting into that sort of sound design territory too. And I like being very hands-on with that. I don't think I've ever downloaded a melodic sample to kind of use as a jump off point.
Amazing. And like, are you, what's your go-to like synth? Are you doing anything analog? Are you like make your own Serum like presets and stuff? Or are you like, what does that look like?
Right. I actually have no VST stuff. I'm all analog. I like,
no shit.
Yeah, I am a big like tactile. I like turning knobs. I had the Prophet Rev 2 was my sort of first synth I bought when I was working at Dreamhouse. Is when I started doing a lot more pop production, and I could just, you know, walk into the main room whenever nobody was using it and just, you know, grab a 106, or, you know, they had a 106 and a 60, both the Junos, and a couple old like weird quirky like an MS-20 and stuff. And I just found myself using synths a lot more in production. So I did a little bit of homework. Saw like the Rev 2 is a very modern, kind of can do it all sort of thing. So that was the start of my addiction.
Yeah.
I have an OB6 beside me too, which is like
nice.
super just low end crazy, but also that fizzy weird, you know, Oberheim top end, which a lot of people said don't get it. It's like a one trick thing. Not true at all. That thing is also an absolute monster. I've got a Moog 1, which I've been definitely diving more into. Again, just crazy sound design potential. And I just got this thing back. So when I bought the Moog 1, I sold 5 or 6 other sort of smaller synths because it's a bit of an investment. But I sold the Matriarch, and I really missed how weird it was. Like with all that sort of semi-modular patching stuff, you can get in some really like crazy territory with it. And I just got it back yesterday. So everything I do that